Have you ever woken up one morning and felt, deep down, that the person you've become is no longer the person you're meant to be? Not because you've failed, but because you've outgrown your old limits, your old habits, even your old story. There comes a moment in every life when the mirror doesn't just reflect your face, it reflects your potential. And in that moment, you realize something powerful. You can rebuild yourself. Maybe life knocked you down. Maybe you drifted off course. Maybe you gave too much, tried too hard, or settled too often. Or maybe, without even noticing, you've been carrying a version of yourself that no longer fits the future you want. But here's the truth most people never hear. You are not locked into who you were yesterday. You are not trapped by your past, your mistakes, or your circumstances. You are only limited by the belief that you cannot change. Today, I want you to suspend that belief. Just for a moment, I want you to imagine the person you could become if you stopped negotiating with your excuses, stopped shrinking your dreams, and started rebuilding your life from the inside out. Because transformation doesn't start with a plan, it starts with a decision. Personal responsibility is often spoken about as a simple idea, yet it is one of the most profound turning points in a person's life. It is the quiet internal shift from believing life happens to you toward understanding that life responds to you. When someone fully accepts responsibility, they stop waiting for circumstances, luck, or other people to change. They begin to recognize their own power as the source of change. This realization is not about blame, and it is not about criticizing yourself for what you didn't know or what you failed to do in the past. It is about acknowledging that the steering wheel of your life has always been in your hands, even during the moments when you felt like you were drifting. Accepting responsibility means taking ownership of your choices, your attitudes, and your reactions, because these are the elements that shape your daily life and ultimately your future. Many people misunderstand responsibility as a burden, but it is actually a liberation. When you believe someone else is responsible for where you are, you also hand them control over where you can go next. Taking responsibility doesn't mean every situation was your fault. There are circumstances you did not choose, events you could not predict, and challenges you never asked for. But responsibility is the realization that even when something was not your fault, how you respond to it becomes your responsibility. The power lies in recognizing that while you cannot rewrite yesterday, you are always free to rewrite tomorrow. This shift in mindset moves you from victimhood to authorship, from passivity to creativity. Personal responsibility also invites you to examine your habits and patterns with honesty. Every day is shaped by countless small decisions: what you focus on, what you consume mentally, how you speak to yourself, who you spend time with, how you use your time, and how often you push yourself beyond convenience. When you take responsibility, you begin to see the connection between these tiny choices and the larger outcomes of your life. You start to notice that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is often bridged by consistent self-management rather than dramatic bursts of motivation. Responsibility helps you stop waiting for the perfect day, the perfect mood, or the perfect opportunity. Instead, you use what you have where you are exactly as you are, and you begin shaping forward motion. A powerful part of responsibility is the willingness to give up excuses. Excuses may provide comfort in the moment, but they silently rob you of progress. They tell you that someone or something else holds the keys to your destiny. When you take responsibility, you no longer allow external factors to define what is possible for you. You stop using your past as a shield and begin using it as a reference point for growth. Instead of saying, "I can't," you begin asking, "How can I?" This simple shift opens up creativity, resourcefulness, and resilience. You realize that solutions often appear only after you commit to finding them. Responsibility also deepens your relationship with discipline. Discipline becomes less about pressure and more about alignment. When you accept responsibility, you understand that discipline is not punishment but proof of commitment. You decide what matters to you and then take the actions that match your intentions. Every time you honor a promise to yourself, you strengthen your sense of identity and personal trust. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of progress, and that belief becomes a foundation for further growth. Another important element is emotional responsibility. Instead of being controlled by impulses, frustrations, or fears, you develop an awareness of how emotions influence your choices. Responsibility allows you to pause before reacting, to reflect before speaking, and to choose a response aligned with your values instead of your temporary feelings. This maturity leads to better relationships, better decisions, and a more stable sense of self. It means you stop expecting others to regulate your emotions or provide your motivation. You become the source of your own direction. Ultimately, personal responsibility is the invitation to step into adulthood in the truest sense, not defined by age, but by ownership. It is the understanding that your growth, your progress, your habits, your dreams, and your future belong to you. It asks you to stop looking outward for change and begin cultivating it inward. It asks you to stop waiting for someone to rescue you and begin choosing actions that elevate you. It is not a quick transformation, but an ongoing practice, a daily commitment to shaping your life with intention rather than drifting through it by default. Small disciplines are often underestimated because they appear too simple to matter. People tend to look for dramatic breakthroughs, big gestures, or sudden transformations, forgetting that the greatest changes usually begin with the smallest adjustments. A small discipline is any consistent action you commit to: reading a few pages each day, exercising for 10 minutes, practicing gratitude, focusing for a set amount of time, or replacing one unhelpful habit with a better one. These little behaviors may seem insignificant in isolation, but when practiced daily, they create a compound effect that reshapes your character, habits, and ultimately your life. What makes small disciplines powerful is not their intensity but their consistency, because consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds transformation. Small disciplines work like drops of water on stone. One drop does nothing, but repeated over time, even water can carve through rock. The same principle applies to personal growth. A person who reads for 10 minutes a day may not feel smarter tomorrow, but over a year, they gain knowledge that can shift their thinking. Someone who walks a short distance daily may not see a change in the mirror immediately, but over time, their energy, health, and confidence improve. Small disciplines stack, and once they accumulate, they begin to alter your life in ways you couldn't see at the beginning. This is why they matter. They create progress that is invisible at first but undeniable later. One of the biggest challenges with small disciplines is that they often feel too easy to skip. Because they don't demand much effort, people think missing a day doesn't matter. But skipping once makes skipping twice easier, and skipping twice forms a pattern. The danger lies not in the size of the discipline, but in the inconsistency of the commitment. A small daily action becomes a powerful force only when it is performed repeatedly. The quiet truth is that your daily routine either lifts you or limits you. Every repeated action is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Over time, these votes shape your identity, your habits, and your outcomes. What makes small disciplines so effective is that they reinforce personal trust. Each time you follow through on a promise to yourself, even a small one, you strengthen your inner belief that you are reliable. You prove to yourself that you can show up, that you can stay committed, and that you are capable of progress. This internal trust is far more important than external motivation, because motivation fades, but identity endures. Once you begin to see yourself as someone who honors small commitments, it becomes easier to take on bigger ones. Small disciplines become the training ground for larger achievements. Small disciplines also help you take control of your environment and mindset. When you commit to even a minor positive habit, you interrupt old patterns and create space for new ones. A 5-minute reflection in the morning can shift your mindset for the entire day. A short moment of planning can eliminate hours of wasted effort. A few minutes of decluttering can influence how productive you feel. The key is not the duration but the direction. Each small discipline points you toward a better version of yourself, helping you gradually build an environment and a mindset that support your goals. Another powerful aspect of small disciplines is that they reduce overwhelm. Many people avoid growth because the goal seems too large or too far away. But when you break the process into small, manageable actions, you turn a mountain into a series of steps. Small disciplines keep you moving forward, even when motivation is low or life feels chaotic. They create progress that is sustainable because it doesn't rely on emotional highs. They help you navigate life with steadiness rather than intensity, making growth feel achievable rather than intimidating. Small disciplines also sharpen self-awareness. By committing to daily habits, you learn to observe your patterns, your weaknesses, and your strengths. You notice when you tend to procrastinate, when you become distracted, and what triggers your lack of consistency. This awareness gives you the power to adjust, not from judgment but from understanding. It helps you craft a lifestyle that supports your goals instead of competing with them. Over time, small disciplines become part of your identity. You no longer have to remind yourself to do them. They become automatic. This shift is where the true transformation happens. When discipline becomes routine, growth becomes effortless. The small things you once had to force yourself to do become the foundation of who you are. They influence your decisions, your confidence, and your opportunities. Ultimately, small disciplines are the seeds of personal transformation. They are quiet, steady, and often unseen, but they are the builders of progress. They teach patience, consistency, resilience, and self-trust. They create the invisible architecture of a stronger future. Through them, you slowly but surely rebuild yourself from the inside out. Your philosophy is the internal framework through which you interpret life, make decisions, and determine what is possible for you. It is not simply the ideas you believe. It is the lens through which you view the world and your place in it. This philosophy quietly directs your actions, shapes your expectations, and influences how you respond to opportunity and adversity. Most people don't consciously choose their philosophy. They absorb it from their upbringing, environment, and experiences. But once you become aware that your philosophy is shaping your future, you gain the power to reshape that future by upgrading the ideas and beliefs that guide you. Everything you do is downstream of what you believe, which is why your philosophy becomes the foundation of your success, growth, and transformation. A person with a limiting philosophy interprets challenges as dead ends, while a person with an empowering philosophy views challenges as lessons or stepping stones. Two people can experience the same setback and come away with completely different conclusions because their philosophies differ. One might say, "This always happens to me," while another might say, "This is teaching me something valuable." The event is the same, the meaning is different, and meaning influences action. A limiting meaning creates hesitation, while an empowering meaning creates movement. This is how your internal philosophy shapes the external direction of your life. Your philosophy influences your habits, and your habits shape your destiny. If you believe life is beyond your control, you won't put in effort because you'll assume it won't matter. If you believe that effort compounds, you'll invest in small disciplines every day. If you believe people are untrustworthy, you will shut down opportunities for connection. If you believe people can add value to your life, you will form relationships that help you grow. What you believe determines what you allow. What you allow determines what you experience. In this way, your philosophy acts as a filter, letting in or blocking out the possibilities that appear before you. Your philosophy also shapes how you respond to fear and failure. A philosophy rooted in self-doubt will interpret fear as a sign to stop, but a philosophy rooted in growth will interpret fear as an indicator of expansion. Failure, too, becomes transformed. With a weak philosophy, failure confirms your fears and reinforces your limitations. With a strong philosophy, failure becomes feedback, guiding you toward refinement rather than retreat. Over time, this difference compounds into two entirely different lives, one confined by fear and the other expanded by it. Your philosophy affects what you think you deserve. Many people hold dreams that their beliefs cannot support. They want success but believe they are unworthy of it. They want love but believe they are undeserving. They want opportunity but believe it is reserved for others. When your philosophy and your desires are misaligned, progress becomes a battle. But when your philosophy evolves to support your dreams, you begin moving toward them with clarity, confidence, and conviction. You stop sabotaging yourself. You stop shrinking. Your beliefs finally allow you to rise in the direction you've always wanted to go. Your philosophy also dictates the quality of your decisions. Every choice you make, how you spend your time, how you treat your body, how you handle money, how you communicate, how you pursue goals, is influenced by the principles and values you operate from. A person with a philosophy of growth invests time in learning. A person who believes improvement is pointless wastes time on distraction. A person who sees life as abundant shares knowledge and opportunities. A person who sees life as scarce hoards and hides. Every decision is a mirror reflecting your internal philosophy. One of the most transformative aspects of philosophy is that it can be intentionally changed. You can examine your beliefs with honesty and replace the ones that limit you. You can question the assumptions you've carried for years. You can expose yourself to ideas that elevate your thinking. You can learn from experiences and refine your worldview based on wisdom rather than fear. By doing so, you begin designing a philosophy that supports your goals instead of sabotaging them. You begin to think in ways that produce clarity rather than confusion, solutions rather than excuses, responsibility rather than blame. Over time, this upgraded philosophy becomes the silent architect of a stronger, more resilient, more intentional life. As your philosophy evolves, so does your identity. You start to see yourself differently, not as a passive observer of life, but as an active creator. You become less influenced by external noise because your internal compass becomes stronger. With a grounded philosophy, you navigate uncertainty with steadiness. You face challenges with perspective. You pursue goals with purpose. This inner shift eventually manifests in your outer world, in your habits, your opportunities, your relationships, your achievements, and ultimately your future. Through your philosophy, you shape your life from the inside out, building a foundation that supports everything you aspire to become. Change begins within before it shows without, because every outward result is first born as an inward shift. People often look for external improvements, more opportunities, better relationships, different circumstances, a fresh start, without realizing that none of these can be sustained unless they emerge from an internal transformation. The world reflects who you are, not just what you want. Your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and self-image shape the actions you take, and those actions eventually shape your environment. This is why meaningful, lasting change always starts inside you. When you change how you think, how you interpret life, and how you see yourself, you set in motion a ripple effect that alters everything around you. The inner world becomes the blueprint for the outer world. At the center of inward change is your self-concept. You cannot consistently act in a way that contradicts your identity. If you believe you are undisciplined, even the strongest attempts at self-improvement will collapse once motivation fades. If you believe you are unworthy, you will unconsciously sabotage opportunities that could elevate you. If you believe success is reserved for others, you will hesitate, procrastinate, or retreat every time progress becomes possible. But the moment you shift your self-concept, even slightly, your actions begin to shift as well. You start showing up differently because you see yourself differently. That internal adjustment becomes the seed from which new patterns, choices, and behaviors grow. Internal change also involves mastering your emotional landscape. Many people attempt to transform their lives while being controlled by unprocessed emotions such as fear, anger, doubt, or insecurity. They mistake temporary motivation for true transformation. Motivation may spark action, but emotional clarity sustains it. When you learn to regulate your emotions, pausing rather than reacting, responding rather than exploding, grounding yourself rather than panicking, you gain the ability to navigate challenges without losing direction. This emotional shift gradually shapes a calmer, clearer, and more grounded version of yourself, and that version makes better decisions and attracts better outcomes. Thought patterns are another powerful element of internal change. Your mind constantly narrates your life, and the story it tells determines the path you take. If your inner dialogue is full of defeat, telling you that you're too late, too flawed, or too insignificant, you will shrink from possibilities. But if you cultivate a mindset that interprets challenges as opportunities, failures as lessons, and effort as meaningful, you create an internal environment where growth feels natural rather than forced. Over time, this shift in thinking shows up externally in your habits, confidence, communication, and overall direction. Inward change also means becoming aware of the beliefs you have absorbed unconsciously. Some people carry beliefs inherited from parents, communities, or past experiences without ever questioning them. These beliefs quietly shape how they behave and what they expect from life. For example, someone who grew up believing money is scarce may undercharge for their work, avoid financial conversations, or fear taking economic risks. Someone who believes love is painful may guard themselves so tightly they never experience meaningful connection. Once you begin examining these internal beliefs, you gain the ability to replace the ones that limit you with beliefs that empower you. This shift, while invisible, is profound. It changes the way you show up in the world long before your circumstances catch up. Another key element of internal change is intention. Many people drift through life reacting to events rather than directing their energy with purpose. When you begin setting clear intentions, you change how you use your time, attention, and effort. Intention brings focus, and focus brings results. Even if nothing outside you shifts immediately, your internal sense of direction becomes stronger. You stop scattering your energy and start channeling it. Over time, that internal alignment reshapes your actions and produces visible transformation. Internal change also impacts communication. When you develop clarity, confidence, and emotional stability on the inside, your words change. You speak more assertively, set healthier boundaries, and express your needs without fear. These internal improvements alter your relationships, making them more balanced, respectful, and fulfilling. People respond differently because you are showing up differently. The external world adapts to your internal growth. Even your habits begin inside. People often try to change their habits through sheer willpower, but willpower fails if your internal identity doesn't support the new behavior. A person who internally believes they are capable and disciplined will naturally adopt habits that align with that belief. Meanwhile, A person who internally sees themselves as inconsistent will struggle no matter how hard they try. Changing the belief makes the habit possible. The habit then reinforces the belief. This cycle begins within and expresses itself outwardly through visible actions. Ultimately, every external achievement, a healthier body, a better career, stronger relationships, improved finances, new opportunities, is simply a reflection of an internal shift that occurred earlier. The world responds when you do. When you elevate your thinking, your life rises to meet it. When you strengthen your mindset, your path becomes clearer. When you transform your inner world, your outer world gradually reorganizes itself around the person you have become. Environment matters because it acts as the silent architect of your life, shaping your thoughts, habits, expectations, and decisions long before you realize it. The people you interact with, the conversations you participate in, the information you consume, the routines you follow, and even the physical spaces you inhabit all influence the direction of your growth. Many people try to improve themselves without adjusting their environment, and they wonder why progress feels slow or inconsistent. But your environment can either reinforce the person you want to become or strengthen the patterns you are trying to outgrow. When you understand that environment is not just a backdrop but an active force, you begin to choose it with far more intention. One of the most powerful elements of your environment is the company you keep. The people around you influence your thinking through subtle cues, behaviors, and attitudes. If you spend time with individuals who complain constantly, avoid responsibility, or discourage ambition, their mindset gradually seeps into your worldview. You may begin to lower your expectations, question your goals, or adopt similar habits without realizing it. Conversely, when you surround yourself with people who aim higher, practice discipline, speak with purpose, and encourage growth, their energy elevates yours. Their standards become a mirror that reflects what you can become. They challenge you, inspire you, and remind you of your potential. The right environment makes growth feel natural rather than forced because it aligns with the direction you want to move toward. Information is another crucial part of environment. Every piece of content you consume becomes a building block in your mind. If your daily diet consists of negativity, drama, gossip, or distractions, you shape a mindset that is reactive, anxious, or unfocused. Many people underestimate how deeply their mental environment influences their emotional state. But when you begin feeding your mind with uplifting ideas, educational material, motivational speeches, or meaningful conversations, you nourish a mindset capable of clarity and progress. Information is like mental nutrition. Junk information slows you down, while empowering information strengthens your thinking. Over time, your external results reflect the quality of your internal input. Your environment also includes your habits and routines. The structure of your day influences the consistency of your behavior. If your environment is chaotic, no clear schedule, no designated workspace, no boundaries with your time, your life follows the same pattern. You drift instead of direct. But if you create routines that support your progress, even in small ways, you give yourself a foundation for stability and growth. A simple morning practice, a clean workspace, a dedicated time for learning, or a consistent bedtime can all create an environment where success becomes more predictable. Structure may seem restrictive, but in reality, it provides freedom. It eliminates decision fatigue, reduces stress, and gives your mind a reliable framework to operate within. Physical surroundings also play a role in your personal environment. Cluttered spaces can create cluttered thinking. Disorganized environments can drain your energy or distract your attention. On the other hand, a clean, intentional space can support focus and calmness. Light, colors, organization, and atmosphere influence how you feel and how you work. When your physical environment reflects order, your internal state often mirrors it. One of the most underestimated aspects of environment is standards. The environment you place yourself in determines what you consider normal. If laziness, complaining, or indecision are normal in your environment, you will adapt to fit that norm. Humans are wired for belonging, and belonging often means mirroring the environment. But when you place yourself in spaces filled with discipline, accountability, positivity, and ambition, you adapt upward. High standards elevate your behavior not through force but through influence. You begin expecting more from yourself because the environment silently encourages it. Another important element is energy. Every environment carries an emotional tone. Some environments drain you, others replenish you. Some environments create pressure, others create possibility. When you pay attention to how environments make you feel, you begin to understand why certain goals feel difficult in one context, but effortless in another. Energy is contagious, and environments transmit it constantly. Choosing environments that lift your energy helps you maintain motivation, creativity, and resilience. Environment also influences the opportunities you are exposed to. In the wrong environment, your abilities may go unnoticed, your ideas may be dismissed, or your potential may be underestimated. But in the right environment, your strengths have room to shine. You meet people who support your goals, you discover opportunities that align with your interests, and you gain experiences that accelerate your growth. The right environment doesn't just shape who you are, it shapes who you become. Ultimately, environment is a form of guidance. It nudges you towards certain behaviors and away from others. It reinforces your habits, your identity, and your aspirations. When your environment supports your goals, progress feels natural. When it opposes your goals, progress becomes a constant battle. This is why consciously shaping your environment is one of the most powerful steps you can take in rebuilding yourself. When you place yourself in environments that match the life you want, you begin moving toward that life with clarity, confidence, and consistency. Failure is feedback because it provides you with information that success often hides. When things go right, you may not question your methods, your mindset, or your habits. You simply enjoy the outcome and keep moving. But when things go wrong, you are forced to look more closely, to analyze, to adjust. Failure acts as a mirror, revealing the gaps in your preparation, the flaws in your strategy, the assumptions you made, or the skills you still need to develop. It doesn't define your future unless you allow it to. What it does is illuminate the areas where improvement is possible. Instead of treating failure as a final verdict, viewing it as feedback turns it into a source of clarity, direction, and growth. Many people avoid failure because they associate it with judgment or personal inadequacy. They believe failing means something is wrong with them. But failure is rarely personal, it is structural. It is a signal that something in your approach needs adjustment, not that your potential is limited. When you understand this, you stop taking failure to heart and start taking it as instruction. You realize that failure is not proof that you are incapable. It is proof that you are trying, learning, and moving. The only true failure is refusing to learn from what happened. Failure provides precision. It tells you exactly what didn't work. It points out where your assumptions were incorrect or where your efforts were misaligned. If you listen to failure carefully, it will guide you toward better decisions. It will help you refine your strategy, develop resilience, and build wisdom. People who grow quickly are not those who avoid failure. They are those who respond to it intelligently. They analyze it without emotional judgment. They extract lessons without drowning in disappointment. They take another step with more knowledge than they had before. Each failure becomes a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. Another important aspect of failure as feedback is that it teaches humility. It reveals that you don't have everything figured out yet, and that is perfectly normal. Humility opens the door to curiosity. It pushes you to seek guidance, to ask better questions, and to explore new solutions. When failure shows you that your way didn't work, humility encourages you to learn from others who have succeeded. It nudges you toward mentorship, study, and self-reflection. This humility doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you by expanding your perspective. Failure also strengthens your emotional resilience. Each time you get back up after a setback, you reinforce your ability to endure discomfort and uncertainty. Resilience is not built through avoidance. It is built through exposure. When you face failure and continue moving forward, you build a deeper trust in yourself. You learn that disappointment doesn't break you. You realize that temporary defeat does not equal permanent loss. This emotional strength becomes one of your greatest assets because it allows you to take risks, pursue goals, and move through challenges with confidence rather than fear. Failure teaches patience as well. Growth rarely happens overnight. It is a gradual process marked by trial, error, reflection, and adjustment. When you treat failure as feedback, you begin to understand that progress is not linear. It has dips, detours, and pauses. These moments of setback teach you to slow down, reassess, and continue with greater wisdom. Patience becomes a companion to perseverance. It helps you stay committed even when the results are not visible yet. Failure also uncovers hidden potential. Sometimes a setback forces you to explore skills or strengths you never knew you had. It pushes you outside your comfort zone and into creativity. When one door closes, failure often points to another door you hadn't considered. Many breakthroughs in life come after a failure redirected someone toward a better path. This is why seeing failure as feedback is so powerful. It shows you alternatives, not endings. Another crucial aspect of failure is that it exposes your true motivations. When things are easy, motivation is superficial. But when you face setbacks, You discover how deeply you care about a goal. If you quit quickly, it may not have been something you truly wanted. But if you persist, even through frustration and disappointment, you reveal a deeper sense of purpose. Failure clarifies what matters to you, and that clarity helps you focus your energy more intentionally. Failure also removes illusions. It strips away unrealistic expectations and helps you build a grounded understanding of what it takes to succeed. It replaces fantasy with process, impatience with discipline, and entitlement with effort. This grounding is essential for long-term success because it prepares you for the real work ahead. Ultimately, failure is a teacher disguised as a challenge. It offers guidance through experience. It shapes your character, refines your skills, deepens your understanding, and aligns you with a better path. When you treat failure as feedback, you transform setbacks into wisdom, obstacles into opportunity, and doubt into determination. Over time, these lessons accumulate, allowing you to rebuild yourself into someone wiser, stronger, and far more capable than before. In the end, rebuilding yourself is not a single moment or a single choice. It is a continuing commitment to rise above who you were and step into who you're capable of becoming. It is the courage to examine your life with honesty, the discipline to change what no longer serves you, and the wisdom to recognize that every setback, every mistake, and every challenge was preparing you for something greater. You rebuild yourself not because you are broken, but because you have discovered there is more inside you than you've allowed the world to see. As you leave today, remember that transformation is not reserved for the lucky or the gifted. It is available to anyone willing to take responsibility, upgrade their thinking, practice small disciplines, and shape an environment that supports their growth. Every great change begins within you long before the world notices. And if you keep showing up, keep learning, and keep believing in the possibility of a better version of yourself, life will eventually rise to meet your new standards. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for choosing growth even when it isn't easy. I honor your journey and the courage it takes to rebuild. Good luck on your next chapter, and may you step into it with clarity, strength, and an unshakable belief in what you can become.